right, and to make sure that we are staying on schedule, we're going to go ahead and get started right as it is turning 9:30. Good morning, everybody. My name is Erin Woods, and I'm an admissions representative with the University of Kansas, and I am so glad that you're here today to learn a little bit more about why KU might be a wonderful place to further your goals and get a wonderful education. I am joined today by another one of our wonderful admissions representatives, Chancellor Adams, who will be joining us in the chat. So if you do have any questions as we go, please do not hesitate to talk to us there. We want to make sure that we're giving you helpful links and making sure that anything you might need to know, we can address. Now, as I mentioned, I am an admissions representative at KU, and one thing that's very special about our admissions representatives is that each and every one of us attended KU. We all got KU degrees, and we know that there is nobody better on planet Earth to represent this experience than a fellow Jayhawk. So I actually did attend KU. I graduated back in 2018 with a degree in English and a minor in Spanish, and I loved my experience so much that I just keep coming back for more. But I did have kind of a unique journey. I actually grew up in Wichita, Kansas, just about 2 hours down the road, and I went to a rather large high school, which really influenced what I thought I wanted in college. So as I began the college selection process, I was really only looking at smaller schools and actually ultimately found myself at a small private four-year school in my hometown. And it was a good school, there's no denying that, but I realized rather quickly that that environment was not the exact environment I was looking for. So I actually spent my second semester of my freshman year at a local community college. And after that, I transferred to KU and had really wonderful experiences. I'll share with you today a few of those experiences as we go, but speaking from experience, I can say that KU really offers something that not every school does. And I have a passion for this place that I really, really love to speak to. So as I've already mentioned, we do have an office full of Jayhawks. Each and every one of you has a personal admissions representative at the University of Kansas, and we all graduated from KU. If you ever have questions about how to contact them, we would love to help you get in touch because we are here specifically to help you see how KU can fulfill your goals. So please do not ever hesitate to be in touch with us. Now, I always like to get us started just with a quick demographic overview of KU, just so you can kind of get a feeling for what this community is like. So we have a total student population on the undergraduate side of right around 19,000 students. And this is a really nice sweet spot. To me, this felt really large when I was in high school. I know to some it feels rather small, but this is a really nice sweet spot because it classifies us as a truly mid-sized university when you're comparing us to other institutions across the country. This means that you can get that kind of smaller college atmosphere in the classroom. You have those connections with your peers and your classmates, as well as your professors, but you also have all the amenities of coming to a larger school that is a tier 1 research institution that offers D1 athletics. So you really get the best of both worlds here. And as you can see, this shakes out to a really nice classroom size as well, with nearly 3/4 of our classes under 30 students and nearly 90% of our classes under 50. And again, speaking from experience, the very first class that I had at KU was actually the smallest class that I'd had so far in my academic curriculum, with a total student size of about 15. So that was a pretty impressive thing to realize, and it wasn't something I thought I could initially get at KU that really pleasantly surprised me. Now, just to give you an idea of who's going to be in the classroom with you, you can see that our average ACT is close to a 26, and our average GPA is right about a 3.6. Now, I don't want you to think that these are admissions criteria at all. We will touch base on that here shortly. But just so you have an idea of who you're going to be surrounded by in the classroom, we always like to offer up this average. Jayhawks also come from just about all over. We represent all 50 states in the United States, as well as over 100 countries worldwide, and have about 60% of our student body coming from right here in the state of Kansas, with another 40% coming from across the country and around the world. And this is a really nice balance because for our out-of-state students, you're always going to have folks who are coming from a similar background, who are learning all of this alongside you. But for my folks coming from Kansas, or maybe some of those smaller areas, you're always going to have somebody who's coming from a very, very similar background as well. So that kind of works well on both sides. Our out-of-state students and our Kansas students are always kind of being put in both challenging new situations, but also never being pushed too far out of their safety zone either. And another number that's very important to us here at KU is the percentage of our students who identify as students of color. Nearly a quarter of our student body identify as students of color, and this is absolutely essential for us because diversity is incredibly important. Not only is it important for making sure that every student who wants access to this kind of education has access to it, but it's also important because these are the kinds of spaces where we can share ideas, we can share our backgrounds, we can really get to know frames of mind that are different from our own and really challenge ourselves to grow into the best people we can be. So this number that you see here is slightly outdated. We now sit closer to about 24%, but this is a number that we hope to see grow every single year. And this is something we value deeply here at the university. But today, what I really want to spend our time focusing on is what we call the KU difference. And I like to think of this as something that you can use to start comparing KU to other schools you might be looking at. This college selection process can be a little bit difficult in trying to distinguish what makes a university unique from other places. So we're going to really try to focus on what makes KU different today. And these are going to be the topics we'll hit on: being a member of the Association of American Universities, or the AAU, hitting on our geographic location here in Lawrence, Kansas, as well as this Jayhawk identity. But we are going to get started with the Association of American Universities, or the AAU. Now, this is a really big differentiator for us. This isn't something, though, that a lot of students are familiar with when they're coming into college. Some of you very well may be, but for those of you who are not, this is an incredible distinction for us. And this is really something that we're proud of. The AAU is a very small select group of schools across the country that represent 0.1% of institutions of higher education. And they have an express mission just to improve the world through a combination of curiosity, education, and research. Now, as I mentioned, schools in the AAU represent 0.1% of institutions of higher education, yet every single year, these schools bring in over 60% of federally allotted research dollars. Now, of course, I am well aware that you can probably do that inverse, but just to illustrate the power of that, that means that 99.9% of schools across the country are fighting for less than half of available research dollars. And this means that we can do some really incredible things at KU. So for one, it means that we are going to have truly industry-leading faculty. And the industry-leading is a very, very careful word choice on my part here, because speaking from experience, you can have outstanding faculty members anywhere you go. You will have great professors who are doing amazing things, who make you feel engaged in your education. That is not a KU exclusive feeling, but we do have some really unique folks who are here teaching our students that you don't just find anywhere. I'm really big on the STEM humanities balance, so I'm going to give one quick example from each side. On the STEM side, we have a really incredible professor by the name of Brian McClendon. And Brian actually graduated from KU. He got his degree in engineering, and after graduating went on to work for the company that invented Google Earth and Google Maps, went on to be a VP at Google, a VP at Uber, and is now back on our campus teaching our undergraduate engineering students. Fun fact, Brian McClendon also only accepts a salary of $1. The rest of it he gives away as endowed scholarships to KU students. So I think that's a really powerful example of how much Jayhawks love to give back to their community, which we'll touch on here shortly, which we'll touch on here in just a moment as well. But another example I love is that of Kevin Wilmot. Kevin Wilmot is a professor in our School of Film and Media Studies, and he's doing a lot of incredible things. But one of his most notable accomplishments within the last several years is that back in 2019, he actually won an Oscar. He worked with filmmaker Spike Lee on the film BlacKkKlansman and won the Oscar in 2019 for Best Adapted Screenplay. So we can now say that here at KU, we have Oscar award-winning faculty members, and they actually teach our freshmen, which is something very unique. Schools in the AAU, again, these are absolutely incredible schools. As you've already heard, it's a very small select group. And these are going to be, your Ivy League schools, lots of those other big institutions, universities in other states, pardon me. So these are really wonderful institutions, and there's no denying that. But KU focusing on undergraduates is rather unique. A lot of these schools do tend to focus a lot of their time, energy, and funding on their graduate level students, which is absolutely essential. And we're glad that they do, because we want to make sure that every student of every level has these opportunities. But here at KU, we wanted to make sure that our undergraduates especially still had access to these kinds of opportunities. We wanted to make sure that they were not left without these kind of foundational building blocks that set them apart for whatever they're looking at for life after graduation. Research is certainly a part of this, and undergraduate research is an area in which we excel. This is something that coming into college, I had absolutely no idea really even existed, and I especially thought I couldn't take part. I was a first-generation college student, and this was absolutely new to me. So this was something that I kind of stumbled upon along the way. I wound up doing research as a part of my college career in a topic I never thought I could be interested in: 17th century French fairy tales and their translations into English. But these are the kinds of opportunities that KU will put in front of you, and make sure that if you do have that interest, you'll have access. And especially through offices like the Center for Undergraduate Research, if it's something you're interested in doing, we will find a way to help you make it happen. This is also just a great place because we have so many different areas of study. We do have over 200 majors and double that in areas of study, including the most languages taught of any school in the Big 12. So there's truly an endless amount of subjects that you can study here at KU. And if you ever do have any questions about the availability of your program of interest, please feel free to put that in the chat and we'll make sure to help you out. But another huge differentiator for us is our geographic location here in Lawrence, Kansas. Lawrence, to me, is kind of that classic college town. It's not so big that you ever feel like you're always missing out on something, or there's just too much to get involved in, or you have to drive 30 minutes to the grocery store. But it's also not so small that you ever feel like you're running out of things to do, or that you're just kind of getting bored of what's available. It's a really nice sized college town, and there's a very unique connection between the city and the university that you don't just see everywhere, that I know I loved feeling as a student. There's a lot that makes this a great place to be a student, especially the community that is here in Lawrence that supports our students so heartily. But there is something that really makes Lawrence different besides being just a good college town. Now, much like schools in the AAU, I can't sit here today and try to tell you that Lawrence is the only good college town out there. It would be a lie. There are a lot of amazing places that you can be a college student, and that absolutely deserves acknowledging. But the thing about a lot of good college towns is that they might be kind of isolated from a major metropolitan area, which means that students are either choosing a more urban school and perhaps missing out on that classic college town feeling in order to have access to industry and internships, or they might be choosing that classic college town and extending time to graduation by having to take a break through a summer or a winter or a semester to have an internship opportunity that really makes them that much more marketable for life after graduation. And that is just not the case with our students. Lawrence, yet again, kind of fits that best of both worlds mentality by being just down the road from the Kansas City metro area and Topeka, our state capital. The opportunities here for internships, for social engagement is truly so profound that this is a huge differentiator for our students. Our students do not have to pick what they want to do because they can be enrolled in classes and have an internship at a Fortune 500 company, at a professional sporting team, with our state house at the exact same time. And this is something that you don't just find everywhere. So we're really, really fortunate to be located where we are and to offer this kind of opportunity for our students. Because again, when you're thinking about a college education, even if you're still determining what it is you want to do for life after graduation, what we're aiming for is making sure that whatever you do ultimately choose to do, you're set up for success. And this is going to be one of the ways that we can help you get there. And one other nice fact about this is that internships have become so common amongst our students because of this physical proximity to these two areas that the average KU student now graduates with 2 internships. So the accessibility here is also something that shouldn't be overlooked. And we have a lot of opportunities and resources on our campus to connect you to these interests and internships if you do want to pursue this route. But of course, it is more than just a community. Physically, this is truly a mentality, and there is something so special about Jayhawks. There is something so special about this group of people. And as I mentioned earlier with Brian McClendon, Jayhawks just love helping Jayhawks. There's something about this community that is undeniable, but there's no way to really put words to it. Once you start feeling it, it's absolutely impossible to ignore. And there are a lot of ways that this manifests itself. For many students, the way that this kicks off is actually through how they choose their housing. And here at KU, we have a lot of options for you. This is going to be another great option to let us know if you have any questions about what opportunities are available to you in the chat, because we do offer traditional residence halls, we offer suite style living, we offer apartment style living, and a very unique option called scholarship halls. And scholarship halls are something that you don't just see on many college campuses, and they're really a great way to offer communal living. So they're going to be a great way to have a built-in community that isn't going to be too large. We never house more than 50 students in a house. Each person really takes part in uplifting that community, upholding that community, however that looks like for them. And in return, we discount their cost of living by about $2,000 a year. So scholarship halls are a really wonderful way to think about affordability for your college education, as well as kickstarting your community. But of course, this spans our over 600 clubs and organizations here on campus that span from the social development, personal development, or professional development, as well as to our alumni association and all of our over 350,000 active alumni worldwide who really love extending opportunities to Jayhawks and making sure that everybody has a place. And I think too, that's something that always struck me about KU and just this group of people here is that these are the kinds of people who want to help you get where you want to go next. They will go out of their way to help a Jayhawk. And this is something that, again, I know it's a little forward looking, but when you're thinking about life after graduation, this is what gets our students jobs across the world. I have friends who are now living and working in Dubai because of connections from KU alumni, friends who are now going to school in England, who are going all across the world to do what they want to do. But the nice thing about this KU degree is that it's going to have the same power whether it's here in Kansas or whether it's going across the world. This KU degree really gives you that flexibility, and there's always going to be a Jayhawk who wants to help you get to that next step for yourself. So just to give a quick summary, we've talked about quite a bit, and these three features are going to be, yet again, what we call the KU difference, and really things that set a KU education apart from many other schools. And I think I like to go over this a lot because sometimes, again, it can be difficult to narrow down what distinguishes universities between each other. So I hope that today we've touched on a little bit of this so you can start to see if KU is the right place for you. But I want to just make sure that you know KU is the only place in the world where you can be a Jayhawk. This is a very special community, and there's a very, very passionate history behind this, both in the people who have been here and how we actually became the Jayhawkers. So this is a special community that we would absolutely love to have you join. Now, to make sure that you understand how to join it, I'm going to go over some logistics, and we're going to start with some dates and deadlines. This is going to be a great slide to screenshot, take a picture of, write down anything that you need. So please feel free to do that. I'm going to focus on two dates, which are November 1st and December 1st. So for any of these, if you start to see that you have questions, I would encourage you to put that in the chat. November 1st is our early action deadline, and I don't want you to think that this is binding. Really, when you apply before November 1st, all that means is that you have priority access to things like housing, you have priority access to things like your financial aid notification, and you can also get some extra swag in the mail. December 1st, though, is the date that is so important to me. When I'm in person at college fairs, I sometimes give a pop quiz about this date, which makes me nobody's favorite person. But the reason I do is that this is a very important date for us, especially this year. You must apply to KU by December 1st for scholarship consideration. And the nice thing is we don't have a separate scholarship application. So as soon as you apply for admission, as long as you do so by December 1st, you're eligible for scholarships. And this is especially important this year because while we do have published scholarships that are awarded based on your test score and GPA, which I'll show you here shortly, we are also exploring a test optional route for scholarships. So I want to make sure that your application is in by that date so you can be in the pool. We might take after December 1st to really understand what that will look like, but I want to make sure you are at least eligible for them at the very least. Now, once again, if you see any other dates you have questions on, I would encourage you to put your questions in the chat just to make sure that we can address anything that is on your mind. I think it's also important to touch on our assured admissions requirements. And another note on these, although you might see these minimum criteria, I don't want you to worry that if you are a little bit below any of these, you can't be admitted. We absolutely admit students below these criteria. This is not a minimum for entry. Really all it is a set of criteria that says if you meet these, we can have an automated process to admit you, but we do look at our applications individually. We touch each and every one of them, and we want to make sure that we're looking at your unique circumstances. So if you do fall a little bit below these, do not stress. We'll ask you a couple additional short questions on your application just to make sure we get a better feeling for your specific situation and for who you are as a student. And one quick note, we are now test optional this year with that 3.4 cumulative GPA, and we are also accepting super scores for both admission and scholarship. So if you have had the chance to take an ACT or SAT, we will be super scoring, but we know this is not a normal year by far. So we have finally unveiled our new test optional pathway for admission. Now for our scholarships, I want to note one more time that these are not going to be the final look at our scholarships now that we are offering a test optional pathway, but this is going to be a glimpse if you have had a chance to have an ACT or SAT, what you'll be looking at. These are 4-year renewable scholarships, and as I mentioned earlier, as long as we have your test score and your GPA on your application, we will automatically award these to you, and they are renewable for up to 4 years at KU. So my Kansas students, I'm going to give you just another moment to take a peek. And my out-of-state students, I'm going to go ahead and shift. One quick note here, we are still a member of the Midwest Student Exchange. So if you are looking for that program, it is not that we are not a member, we just call it the KU Achievement because we now offer the same award to students across the country. All right, and that is the information I have prepared for you today. I know we have about 1 minute until the end of our presentation, but I did want to touch base and see if there was anything else that you needed from us. Wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining us today. I am so glad to have had the chance to chat with you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.